Hi, Jimmy Kerstein here. Today I want to show you how to cut up a beef top sirloin butt. And what we have here is a old USDA choice top sirloin butt with the cap on. This piece here is the cap for the culotte. We'll show you how to take that off. And just to show you kind of where it comes from, we're going to flip it over to the fat side. This from here on out would be the rump roast. And if you notice how small this piece is, and you can kind of see how it, I don't know if you can kind of get a picture of that, Debbie, how it kind of goes up to a smaller steak. That right there is where the next Porterhouse Steak is, or the last Porterhouse Steak. And if you've bought a Porterhouse Steak or even a big pork chop before, sometimes you'll notice there's a little piece of bone on the other side. That's the last one right there. Okay, so getting started here, I'm going to get a paper towel. First thing I want to do, we're going to do two things here. We're going to pull the cap off the culotte, and the reason we're going to do that separately is because the grain of the meat runs a little different direction than the rest of it. In the past, the way butchers would do this, we would just stick it up here and we'd just start slicing it across. The big choice was whether you did it meat side up or if you sliced it from this side across. Now, most of the stores actually get the top sirloin with the culotte muscle removed, so that's where we're going to go. There's a couple things I want to show you here. There's a thin membrane here where it was pulled off the hip bone, and we want to take that off because that's not going to be good to eat. I paid $2.49 a pound for this, and if you hope that we get about 70% yield out of it, that means we're going to pay about $3.50 a pound for the steak. And when we're all done here, I'm going to save my trimmings and we'll show you just exactly what we did get out of it. So you can see what we've done is we removed that thin membrane because that's going to be tough. And sometimes in the stores now, unfortunately, you'll see stores that still have that on there. Again, there's a little piece on top of this. We're going to pull that off too. The other thing we want to do, there's another muscle here on top. If you can see that, get right in there, Debbie. We'll just pull that up. And there's just a natural seam, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull that off through the natural seam. Someday, someone's going to sell this, one of these new modern meat guys that invent new steaks. They're going to sell this as a premium steak of some sort, call it a fancy name. We're going to keep it on. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cook it. I'm going to see how tender it is for you. And I'll let you know at the end of the video. Okay, with that removed, piece of fat there, we're going to cut that off. What we want to do is we want to get under the fat here. If you kind of push and lift up at the same time, you can see we're going to go around the end of the, see the end of the muscle there? We're going to go around the end of that. I'm just going to pull and push at the same time and get underneath this. And then we're just going to push that right off there. Okay. Now with that removed, turn that off. We're going to pull the cap off, the culotte. So just pull that. Just come in here and just cut it right off. Okay, so we're going to set this aside for a moment. We're going to concentrate on this culotte muscle. And you can see, if we'd sliced it this way, the grain of the meat is going this way. And what we want to do is pull this silver skin off the inside and just get underneath that with your knife. Push that off. There's a little pile of fat there. I'm going to move this fat out of the way, put it up here. Really all I want to do is weigh it and give you a result when we're done here. So now you can see the way the grain of the meat is kind of going across this way. What we want to do is we're going to want to slice it this way as opposed to the way it would have been cut if it were left on the top sirloin. So we're just going to take a little thin slice off here and square up the bottom. And we're going to slice it in nice 1-inch steaks. You can see those are really pretty nice steaks. And get right down to the end here. This last piece, we're just going to pull the fat off of it here, and we're going to butterfly it. So you can see, because we're doing this ourselves, we're going to get a lot nicer product than we're going to buy out of the grocery store. So to butterfly it, what we want to do, we could do it from this side, but in the middle it's going to be the gristle, so we're going to do it from the gristle side, leaving the inside tender. So we've got a nice little steak. Now the other thing I want to show you is how to trim the steaks. In the butcher shops now, unfortunately, you get a steak. We used to call, in my day, we call them hunkers and chunkers. They would keep this same slicing knife in their hand, and they would trim the steak like that. And sometimes they'd gouge in, and you can see, for my money, that's a poorly trimmed steak from when I used to do it. So I put the big knife aside, and I grab a boning knife or trimming knife. And what we want to do is we want to take and just smoothly all around the outside, leave a nice 1/4 inch piece, and trim it up nicely on the back side as well. We're going to do it, there's a smaller side and the bigger side. We'll trim it from the bigger side. And you can see that there's a nicer product there with a nice even piece of fat around it, and it's not hunked and chunked off. It's actually trimmed the way it should be trimmed. And this one has a little bit of a small end. We're going to leave that on there because we're not going to really generate any ground beef off this. So, okay, so we're going to set these up here. These are our little culotte steaks. I think those are very nice. I think anyone would buy those if they were offered those in a grocery store in a meat package, nicely trimmed. So now we're going to turn our attention to the rest of this. Now this would be called a peeled butt. If you bought this wholesale, they would peel the rest of this fat off, and that's how you see them in the stores most often now. They don't have any fat covering on them. And the best steak is this one right here. This one right next to the, would be right next to the Porterhouse Steak. So we're going to, what I want to do is make a roast out of part of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this across here like this. And what you could do is you could just start slicing and go across, and you're going to see there's a little bit of gristle here you're going to have to remove. So we're going to set this piece aside, and we're just going to take this nice piece, and we're going to finish cutting it. We're going to trim a little bit of fat on the inside there again. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to cut this across into nice top sirloin steaks. And you can see there's a bit of gristle right in the middle. If I were to slice this left whole, I would probably cut the steak here and then remove that gristle, but that's not going to happen with this. So we're going to go square up the back of that, and then we'll slice that. So then we need, again, properly trim these steaks. It's always a big deal to me when I worked in the store that all the cutters trim the meat as well on the back side as the front side, because if you really want to piss someone off, have them buy a steak or a cut of meat that's not trimmed as well on the back side. And these pretty much are fat free, so this first cut we're going to have to trim it a little bit there, but I think it'll be just fine. All too often you see in the store you'll buy this steak and it'll have that little piece left on it, so we don't want to do that either. So we're going to set those up there. Again, this weighed just a little under 14 pounds. You can see what a nice bunch of steaks we have here. Go the other direction with those.
What was the total cost of this piece of meat?
It was, I'll have to do the math. It was $2.49 a pound. It was a little under 14 pounds. Okay. So with this cut, we're going to leave the fat on, and we're just going to use our big knife, and we're just going to, we want to leave about between 1/4 and 1/8 inch of fat on there, just for flavor. You don't want to leave any more fat on than you're really going to eat, and we just want enough on there. It's going to make it nice and moist as you cook it. And we're going to go ahead and there's a little bit of silver skin here too. We're going to go ahead and remove that as well. sometimes this is like a forgotten roast. This is a nice little roast. We have company tomorrow, so we're going to cook this as a roast tomorrow. And all you really need to do, there's a little bit of heavy fat on the end there. We're going to pull that off too. Put a couple strings around it to kind of hold it together and roast it. I'll do this real quickly. I do have a video to show you how to do the knot. If you watched my videos before, you probably know that already. Just Google Jimmy Kerstein, how to tie a butcher's knot. It's pretty easy. It's worth learning how to do. You'll use it for all kinds of things, from tying something in the back of your pickup truck, or
So how long are you going to cook this for, and to what internal
so this one is a roast you're going to want to cook to like 135 degrees. It's not meant to be a well done roast, and we're going to dry roast it, meaning we're going to cook it fat side up and season it generously with salt, pepper, garlic, and we'll just roast it dry side up, put a thermometer in there and pull it when it gets to be about no more than 135. Cook it at 350 till it gets there. So I think we're done. We're going to go ahead and weigh this up, and we'll give you a little report at the end of what we really yielded here. Easy to do. That didn't take very long. Give it a try. It's certainly worth it. And wet aging is a way to go too. I've kept this in my fridge for 28 days. No matter what anyone says, you cannot dry age meat in your refrigerator or anyplace else other than commercially for more than like 7 to 10 days. Really all you're getting is an old dry piece of meat. So just leave it in the cryovac and let it wet age for 4 weeks. Get a nicer product. Thanks for watching.